Today, I have Badger Beal. He's a real estate partner, broker, and an agent in mid-Michigan. Um, this is a very interesting guy to have on today because it's because of Badger that I am here today with this podcast. Because Badger and I, we both know each other was through Strategic Coach. We're in the same workshop for quite a few years, and we ended up being in the same hotel one night before the workshop where we do some thinking, and we're just sitting there talking. And then I guess I never realized till I reflected on it, but I guess we are discussing our current challenges in our companies. And I guess the challenges I was describing were more of my own challenges because after a while, he just looked at me after having his pensive thought and just said, hold on a sec. He raced upstairs, got a book, and came back. And then he says, you need to read this and keep this. And that was the book, Driven to Distraction. She says, read this and see if this makes sense. And that was the book that started me on this journey to consider ADHD as a solution to the challenge I was having. So, Mr. Beal, Badger, my friend, thank you for coming on.
Andre, it's great to be here. I can't believe full circle via Teresa, we're doing this.
Right.
And
yeah.
totally the only thing I remember about our conversation is it was kind of deep and we were having a couple cocktails.
Yeah. So a couple was probably an understatement, but yeah, it was deep. But you're right. And it was Teresa that said, hey, Andre, I know someone would be really good for your podcast. It's this Badger Beal guy. I said, oh, yeah, I know this guy. He's the reason for all this. So awesome.
Yes, it's my fault.
Can you just give me a background of what you do and who you work, not who you work for? You've got your own companies, man. Explain what you do.
Yeah. So, thanks, Andre. It's great to be here, and I'm excited and nervous too. So, I'm a real estate. I'm a realtor in mid-Michigan. My home is in Midland, Michigan, and I just became a realtor here in 1987. So I started in real estate, and then eventually I switched companies and to the company I'm in now, which is Air Reinhardt Realtors. In 2001, I became a partner here, and I've been a partner ever since. Seen a lot of changes come and go. And then in 2011, I opened a company in Bay City, which is about 15 miles east of us, called Air Reinhardt Bay. We're large independent companies. And yeah, that's kind of it. So I'm a realtor, partner, broker owner, and we own rental properties and things like that. So that's kind of my world. And yeah, that's what I do and where I'm at.
Cool. And I know you've done a lot of unique things in the realty world, not just in that area, but technically, I think very unique in the real estate world that a lot of people can benefit from and learn from. But I guarantee it has a lot to do with your ADHD, your entrepreneurial spirit as well.
Yeah.
You were diagnosed with ADHD?
Yeah. So yeah, at the age of 55. So
Right.
2017. So Andre was probably officially diagnosed maybe a year after you and I spoke, or maybe about that time.
Yeah, I think you
I'm
said
trying to remember
you
that
started
time frame.
medication at the time.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
So that would have been the fall of 2017.
Yes, that makes sense. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you recall, but when you got the diagnosis, what did you feel or understand? Because I remember you saying something to the extent is like once I got the diagnosis and got the clarity, things kind of made a lot of sense or some sense, or maybe it was the medication. I don't know if you can elaborate on that if you remember.
Yeah, so really what happened was we back up maybe 6 months. I was driving home from a coach conference, and it's a 5 hour drive from Toronto to my home in Midland. Go through Port Huron, Sarnia. And so I'm always listening to audio, books, podcasts, and so forth. So anyhow, I heard the Ned Hallowell speech at Genius Network, and the title of it was called Entrepreneurial Mind, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And I listened to that, and it was just like, oh my gosh, that's me. Because I had this peaked awareness through Strategic Coach with my Colby, which is a 3394, that, hey, there's maybe a high probability that I might have ADHD. And I thought, maybe not. I don't really know. And so I heard that podcast, and it was like, oh my gosh, I'm pretty damn sure I'm ADHD, or at least ADD. And so then that was the spring of 2017. I got diagnosed in August and went on medication probably in September, I'm
And I
guessing.
think that's about when
Uh,
we hooked up.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I had it, and it was Adderall, kind of a moderate low dose,
Mhm.
as I remember. And it was like, oh my gosh, if this is what the rest of the world is like, or sees or functions like, I've been missing out on a lot of stuff for my whole life.
Oh, that's
And
interesting because I thought it was the world was way too damn slow.
yeah, well, it was just clarity, It was
Mm.
like the noise was gone and
Yes.
all this distractions went away. And that was the beginning of the medication journey. And that's about where we were. And then it's been obviously a roller coaster since then. And I've gone deep on it, kind of like you have,
Mm.
and probably in a little bit of a different direction, but obviously it's been a fascinating journey. So it's cool. But my first, to answer your question, I was relieved because it did explain a lot of my behavior in the past and how I acted and how I do crazy stuff.
Mhm.
But my first impression with my diagnosis was first relief. And this is there's genius in ADD, ADHD, and I'm going to play into that genius and with the unique ability and everything we've learned through coach and that whole ethos.
Mhm.
The world just started slowly opening up for me, and it hasn't been a straight line. It's been an up and down journey, but still on that journey. But I feel like I'm in a lot better spot than I was when you and I met.
Yeah, like I think no matter what, neurodivergent or neurotypical, doesn't matter. Life is an up and down journey. It's just I think
Right.
with us with the ADHD, we're fighting our ups and downs were a lot more aggravated because our ups and downs were in line with the neurodivergence up and down.
Yeah.
But before we
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
too far, I do want to make a clarifier on clarification here. Like you said that potentially you understood your potential ADHD because you're a Colby, and I just want to make sure that everyone understands because everyone listeners know I've talked about Colby all the time. There is no
Yeah.
there is no MO or Colby index profile that identifies ADHD. So your
Right.
quick start does amplify the ADHD. So there's those different talents that do amplify it, certain traits of ADHD. So I just want to make sure, just because I talk about Colby all the time, that there's no one profile for ADHD, but it is a great tool to how to figure out how to structure routines and environments based on your Colby. So, um,
Yeah.
what has been your biggest entrepreneurial success?
So, I was thinking about that, and really the biggest entrepreneurial success I've had is survival, but really being a high producing realtor in mid Michigan. I was probably in the top 1% in our state for extended period of time, for 20 years probably.
Wow,
And
that's amazing.
getting through all of that and keeping my life together. I look back all the stresses, and Andre, I've listened to a lot of your podcasts, and you've talked about depression, chaos, all these things that go into, really it's humanity and life. A lot of that just gets pronounced if you have ADHD. So sorting through all of that stuff, being a high producing agent, I'm a partner in a company, own another company, wife, kids, all that stuff, and be here talking with you. And I'm more excited than ever about the next 30 years of my life and
Mhm.
trying to craft the next incarnation right now. So
Yeah, and that's
it's
true. Like a lot of us can relate to that. It's just surviving the chaos. And at the
yeah,
time, we didn't
yeah.
know it was a self-induced chaos, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah. And it still can happen. It can still happen.
but with a little more awareness and understanding of the results, and not feeling that we're failures or we're not living up to other people's measuring stick. So
Yeah, well,
what's your
yeah,
biggest challenge
absolutely.
as an entrepreneur?
So I think my biggest challenge right now is balancing the huge creativity that I have and converting that into uh, to a productive business model or with lack of chaos. I tend to put myself in a lot of chaos, bring too much stuff on, and
Yeah,
I'll
it's also an
overcommit.
entrepreneurial thing. Vision bombing is a term I learned yesterday.
What was that, vision bombing?
Yeah, vision bombing.
I love that. That's great. That's cool. I got to capture that. And but anyhow, it's just there's so much stuff going on, and I just need to settle my mind down and be clear and focused. And working with Teresa's really been super cool because she's really pushing me on clarity. And I'd say that's probably my biggest issue is clarity because there's so much stuff I can't sort through
There's so much
ideas,
stuff we want to
concepts.
do, and every day
Right.
it changes. Yeah, and it's funny because I had the same kind of conversation with her yesterday. Clarity. I just need a lot more clarity on what I want to do and where I want to go.
Yeah, and the big thing that she's done, she's been amazing, really. And it's getting clear on the why. Why do I want to do this? Why am I doing this for this next journey? And that's unfolding, and that's really been pushing me. And it candidly has been a bit of a struggle,
Mhm.
And I'm in a good spot to be able to pursue something, and I am, but I'm getting there. I'm a lot closer now than I was even a month or two ago.
Well,
So
that's progress. May not be as far as you want it to go, but at least it is further than where you were. That's the
right, and kind
gap.
of
The
like
gap.
you.
Huh?
Yeah. So when you were talking earlier, before we went live, you were talking about, hey, you got this new stuff you want to do around ADD, ADHD, and that is this next phase of life. And I've got a similar kind of thing. I got to say goodbye to my old identity, which
Mhm.
is really a realtor, listing and selling real estate. And I sell a fraction of what I used to, and that's by design. But I'm not fully clear on where I'm going next. But I have to let go of this old persona that everybody still around me expects me to be. And I don't
Right.
want to be that guy anymore.
Right. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that I think this is great because that's where I am. And I think it's where the majority of entrepreneurs get to a certain part is you're not a realtor. I'm not an engineer. My
Right.
team are engineers. You have a team of realtors. We are both entrepreneurs with a specialty in realty and
Yeah.
engineering. And then when I finally got that wrapped around my head is now I'm at the point I don't know if this will make sense to you, but I'm tired of engineering and figuring out things. I just want to solve the problem and then have everyone else figure out the details. But now I'm actually chasing my purpose. There's a purpose for me. And the thing is with the ADHD world, what I'm helping out here is my purpose is basically just to help people. Yeah, I was doing that as an engineer with the contractors. I was helping them achieve their goals by helping them with the engineering skill. But at the same time, I was using my other unique ability talents to make sure that they felt right, that they had the right information, like get everyone connected so they can succeed. So that's my
Mm-hmm.
purpose. And as an entrepreneur, it's not necessarily mean I'm stuck in the engineering world. So that's why
Yeah.
I like that term, an entrepreneur with a specialty in whatever you're doing right now. And then we want purpose and be distant because like you said with your creativity is you still want to be in the realty world like I want to do, but I just want to be creative to solve things differently or see different things or how can we have the next advantage, right?
Right. Yeah, and so I meant we're exactly in similar spots. I can see the end of the transaction coming a mile away,
Yeah.
and it's kind of boring to me because I know where it's going, and I don't have the patience anymore to go through the drama or work with people that can't make decisions. And I used to have all that and be more understanding. I'm highly, I don't know, empathetic person, but I've just lost that zest or zeal for it. But I can see things that other people can't see in that world, kind of, I'm sure, like you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just need to move on to something else. And so it's finding the right audience for where I want to be and go. And part of that, at least a major part of that's still in real estate. And I think part of that, kind of like you, is outside of that. And I'm pursuing part of this too with ADD, ADHD. And I don't know how that's going to manifest itself yet,
Mhm.
but I'm taking steps and reaching out. And it's
Yeah.
amazing, Andre, how many people possess this just in society.
Yeah.
What it's amazing. I look through the roster of our company and I'm going like, oh my gosh, there's 25 to 40% of our agents. that probably are ADD, ADHD. And that it's a major dilemma in the industry. It's amazing also how they're afraid to go and get tested or to really explore that issue, you know?
Well, it's a lot of the negative connotation, and the problem is that the other challenge, the other problem I see too, is that the coaching and the treatments are still, it's a bad thing to have. And what I'm trying to do is to get society to respect that there's a difference in doing things, and we got to respect it. There's one thing to just say, yeah, I know it is there, but not do anything about it. That doesn't mean stuff. That's just like a Facebook post. Who cares? But it's actually saying, you know, you acknowledge it, you see it, but if you don't respect it and try to apply it, that's where I'm at. Like, if we can just be allowed to do whatever we do the best way, and every person, no matter what, has their own unique way of doing it, as long as you follow the main process to get the end result correct, the in between, who cares how it's done?
Yeah,
right.
Well, I agree. So, yeah, and the other thing with me too is where I love that, and where I'm going with it is, you know, I've read, studied, listened, talked about all sorts of things around managing ADHD, and you and I know there's genius in that, and we have to welcome it. But I'm really at the point where I want to take it to another level, and that is I want to really flourish in ADD. How do I flourish in it? And I this hit me the other day. It's really a couple of weeks ago. Is I really want to dance with ADD and have no resistance around it. And so I'm practicing playing in my creativity and letting my ADD run wild. So, as an example, in a safe environment, and it's not appropriate all over the place because we definitely have to manage our dilemmas, right?
Well, especially as an entrepreneur, we can't do that with our teams. It confuses them. It scares them, actually, right?
Oh, yeah, and I'm famous for that around here, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And so, but really, I want to try. Okay, how do I really harness this and play with it and have fun with it in a safe environment? And for me, it's around creativity and engaging people. And I'm still sorting through that, but I want to dance with it. I want to dance with it and really be symbiotic with it instead of struggling with it.
Yeah, and that's what my ADHD transformation journey is all about, to get that clarity and how to set up your environments and your systems and processes to make that happen.
And a lot of it's having the right people around you that you can just totally let your hair down, you know. Yeah. And like you and I talking, and like, well, I'm sure we'll have a beer in the not too distant future or whatever, and just I'm not alone on this journey. You know, that was a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I appreciate you reaching out, because of that conversation I got on this. And then I've had a lot of conversation with people say, consider it, and they're pursuing the trend, you know, it's just helping. And just when that one person talks about it out loud, then it makes it okay for the other person to talk about it. Just like I had, when I had Chuck on about the depression, like that really sparked off a lot of stuff. So what ADHD symptom have you transformed into a strength?
You know, that's might be a hard one, but it's really, I think an ADHD symptom for me has been my curiosity and voracious consumption of material. And, you know, in my ADHD testing, one of the things I was like 97, 98 percentile in auditory, I think it was comprehension. And so now I'm just, that explains a lot. And so I really lean into that strength, and I'll buy books and I'll start them and I'll say, oh, forget it. Then I'll buy the audio book and I'll be through that audio book in a day and a half, well, you know, quickly. But really it's the creativity and the collaboration around it. Kelly, my assistant, she said, you can collaborate on anything. You know, I can go in and my brain will connect disparate facts or concepts and find sense and common themes in them, and that's great, and it's also
that's definitely an ADHD brain thing, connecting things that don't make sense to the majority of the people. And I get a lot of people frustrated because of that. I don't know about you, like, how the hell can you get those things figured out when that's not even related? Well, no, sorry, they are related.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so that's why I call Teresa, because I get it and I can talk about it, but you know, casually I can talk about it, but I can't structure a, I struggle communicating around that pulling all that stuff together. It's
Yeah, I
hard
know.
for me.
And I was reading somewhere too, and like it's also an entrepreneurial thing at the same time, not only ADHD, but to make people feel more comfortable around you is explain the connection. I think trying to explain how we connect things doesn't work, but once it's connected, if we just explain how we found the connections, they just want to understand. They just want to see
Right,
it.
right,
They'll never see it before. I don't think we can explain how we see things before. It just does. But we have to
right.
explain rather than my bad thing is just, well, it's easy. It's there, done. Not explain how I
Well,
connected it.
yeah, and you can explain it probably with your more linear background, I think, but I struggled with the explanation, but I tend to craft pictures around it. So I have 4x8 dry erase boards wherever I go. I have an office here. I have an office in our
Well,
basement
yeah, it
office,
doesn't matter
or an
how
office
it's
in our basement.
explained verbally, visually. Visually helps a lot,
Yeah,
period, for everyone because he can see the lines.
yeah,
I agree. I agree with that. Yeah.
yeah. I got to have a picture almost.
So, what's the one piece of advice you want to give to the listeners? Because you've come through a lot
I
of
don't know. I think
adversity and challenges and chaos, like you said. What would be the one thing to you'd give advice for?
so. I would say two quick things. One, you got to have a little courage to like just put your big toe in the water and get tested and find a safe environment to get tested. Don't be afraid of doing it, because once you do it, you go, oh, this is awesome. And so have the courage to put your big toe in this water. And your podcast is awesome, great spot. And then the other thing is, don't give your power away. You know,
Hmm.
don't give your responsibility. I have this victim persecutor model, and how this conversation victim persecutor actually goes on in our heads, and we're beating ourselves up. We're the persecutor and the victim inside our own brains and the internal conversations. And when you get caught up in that, you're giving your power away to the persecutor. And take your power back and start down a journey. And that really takes a lot of courage to start it. But take your power back.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that's a very great note to end on because you're right. I think as an undiagnosed ADHD person trying to fit in, playing a different character, we have sacrificed a lot of our power. And just to correct me if I'm wrong, your power, you're also referring to your genius, your special abilities, your unique abilities, Badger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. That run down that road. And then also, don't think somebody else is going to come along and save you. You have to initiate some action.
Yes,
And,
and
and usually that
exactly.
starts with appreciation and gratitude.
Yeah, that's a great practice. But yeah, I think with most high achievers though, it's we initiate later our own, but at the same time, but when it comes to personal vulnerable stuff, many times we don't take that initiative like we would otherwise. So I think that's a
Right, right.
great way to end it. Do not give up your power. Keep it, or at least take it back now that you know you're diagnosed.
Right,
Badger,
right.
thank you very much for being here and sharing your story. And this was a great conversation. A lot of great points for people to, a lot of good tidbits. The noise was gone, distractions were gone. You were relieved because it explained past behaviors and just got the explanation why and the clarity. It's a brain thing. Cool. Now I get it. I know for me, it was to
Right.
advocate for myself and to explain because my brain works this way. This is why it has, I like it this way or whatnot. And don't give your power away. I love that. Thanks, you,
Yeah.
Badger.
And,
And
yeah. And Andre, really, it opened up a whole new world I never knew existed.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
good luck, everybody.
Thank you. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Andre.